My name is Mike Shinedling. I'm the Viper Program Manager, and I've been working at SRT on Team Viper for about 12 years now. And I've got to say, it's been the biggest privilege to work with the greatest group of guys, the greatest team of engineers and designers. There's more talent, more passion at SRT than any place I've ever worked. I first started working on the Viper actually as a supplier and as a part supplier. And I came to Chrysler about 11 years ago, so I've been working on Vipers for about 12 years. Program manager's job is to essentially keep the trains running on time, so to speak. There's a fairly large team involved in developing a car, and it's important to make sure everybody's focused on achieving the vehicle objectives, and the people are in budget, they're on time, and a lot of coordination and leadership required in managing a program. So with a vehicle like the Viper, we don't have a cast of thousands to develop it. We're generally left with a small team of diehards that really know how to get the job done, and a lot of times with a team like this, you just got to empower the team and let them do their job. But obviously with the small staff, you tend to run into problems where you don't have enough people to get the job done from time to time, and you have to look for other avenues to get the job done, and think outside the box is a big part of working on a Viper program. The Nurburgring is actually a special place for the Viper, and we actually have a lot of history there, a lot of heritage. Not just the lap times in the ACR, but actually this GTSR, a car similar to this GTSR behind me, has campaigned in the 24-hour Nürburgring many, many times, and actually has won both overall and class victories at the 24-hour Nürburgring. And in fact, the Viper is the only American car to ever win the 24-hour Nürburgring. Typically, this race is won by Porsche, BMW, and other German makes. The race is actually operated by the German Auto Club. So when the Viper came and was dominating year after year after year on the 24-hour Nürburgring, the sanctioning body actually went back and they made special rules to make it harder for the Viper to compete. They actually required the Viper to remove 2 cylinders. That's how much they hamstrung the Viper GTSR in order to level the playing field. And the car actually competed very, very well, even with 2 cylinders tied behind its back. It was able to achieve class victories and be right up there near the podium and on the podium with the other competition. And another cool thing about the Nürburgring is the Viper GTSR actually holds the lap record for the longest configuration of the track, which includes the Nordschleife, which is the big track that we were running on with the ACR, and the newer Grand Prix track, which is another 3.5 mile or so track that's attached to the corner of the big track. The first time we went to the Nürburgring was back in 2008, and it really was on the inspiration of a lot of Viper Club members sending us emails and posting in the forums and calling us and demanding that we take the Viper ACR to this track, because especially in the last maybe 5, 6, 10 years, the Nürburgring has really been held up as the benchmark for a sports car, and already the Viper ACR was putting down fastest production car lap records at many tracks across America. And as a team, we sort of viewed the Nürburgring, looking at the map and doing a little bit of research, we sort of viewed it as a combination of a lot of the tracks that you could find here in the United States. And when we got to Germany, we quickly found that it was more of an exaggeration of the tracks you find in America. No track even comes close to the Nürburgring. It's the Mount Everest of racetracks. Essentially, the Nürburgring lives up here, and the second, third, and fourth best tracks in the world follow quite a ways back. It's massive. One lap is like a journey. And we learned that a setup at the Nürburgring is really different than a setup at another track, a smoother track with less elevation change. We had to adapt to that, and one of the great things about the Viper ACR is we give our customer that ability to turn the knobs on the suspension. It has 2-way adjustable dampers for compression and for rebound, and so the customer can change the damping on the car to suit their needs, to suit their feel. It's also ride height adjustable, which is a huge advantage because you can get the proper corner weighting of the car so that you can get the stability correct. And on a track like Nürburgring, it means running the car a little bit higher off the ground than you would on a smoother track, just because the elevation changes are so massive on the track. And in fact, one of the unique aspects of the Nürburgring is there are actually 3 jumps. There's 3 places where a fast car will get airborne, 4 wheels off the ground. And one thing that the ACR has a big benefit over these jumps is the stability in the suspension, but also the aerodynamics. It's pretty noticeable when you look at an ACR. It's got a big wing on the back, but there's also a lot of aerodynamic function in the front of the car to create front downforce to achieve a proper balance. So that's another point of adjustability that we offer the customer is with the Viper ACR is to actually change the wing angles, adjust the splitter, and to achieve an aerodynamic balance that suits their driving style. The Viper ACR has a lot of presence in any crowd. It definitely stands out. And some of the paint schemes that are available from the factory are very racy, very loud. And when we first pulled into the pit area, there's actually an area in the Nürburgring for tourists to be able to, anyone with a card and a driver's license and €25 can take a lap of the Nürburgring. And there's an area where these people line up to do their tourist hours. And one of the first days we brought the cars there and we did a couple practice laps just to check everything out with the tourists. And when we pulled up, it was like a spaceship had landed. Every single head turned, and the car is just really, really unique for European eyes. But going to the Nürburgring, every time we've gone, we've learned a lot. We've taken a lot back. And in fact, from our 2008 expedition, we were able to actually implement some of those changes into the 2010 model year ACR. We improved the gear ratios. 5th gear was too tall for the Nürburgring. The Nürburgring's unique that it has this long, nearly 2-mile front stretch in which cars can achieve terminal velocity. They can achieve their top speed. And with the ACR, we achieved that fairly quickly down that front stretch, but we were aerodynamically limited, not only because the car makes a little bit more drag because of the wing, but there was a strong headwind. It was between a 10 and 15 mile an hour headwind that the car faced. And then on top of that, the gearing just wasn't right for the track. So in the 2010 model year, we shortened 5th gear. We also went into the wind tunnel and we tweaked the wing geometry. We actually changed the profile of the rear wing and came up with a new set of end plates to enhance the downforce in yaw. The number that we always talk about with the ACR is 1,000 pounds of downforce at 150 miles an hour. But that downforce is diminished a little bit when the car's turning, when it's in yaw, when you really need that pressure, that downward aerodynamic force pushing the car to generate grip. So our work after we came back from the Nürburgring was to improve that yaw downforce and decrease that loss that you get while the car is turning. And we were able to achieve a good improvement on the car. And that helped us on the Nürburgring because there are several sections where they have really fast sweeping turns where you want a lot of downforce to carry the speed. One thing with achieving benchmark lap times is it's really a combination of a great team, a great product, great support, and great driving and great conditions. In 2008, we had a wet track in several areas. We had a strong headwind, and we had a driver that was really unfamiliar with the car. So that limited our ability to show the car for the speeds that it was capable on the track. On our latest expedition in 2011, we brought back Tom Cornell. We also hired Dominic Farnbacher, who himself is very experienced at the Nürburgring. And we were able to get them some time in the track prior to our exclusive time where we were running hot laps. So both Dominic and Tom were able to get more familiar with the car, and we were able to play with the setups a little bit before go time, before we had the track exclusive to ourselves. So our first session was a 4-hour session. It was on September 12th. And the weekend before, they were running the historic races around the Nürburgring. And there were about 1,000 historic cars running races and demonstration laps. And what this meant to us was a lot of oil and coolant and fluids that were spilled on the track. So when it started raining Sunday night, the night just before our session, we were really happy because Mother Nature was sort of taking care of the cleanup job and getting rid of a lot of those fluids. But when we arrived at the track the next morning, it looked like Mother Nature had done too good of a job because there was a lot of water still on the track. In fact, the track was probably 90 to 95% still wet. And the track is very, very slick when it has even a little bit of moisture on it. So the conditions were far from ideal. In fact, the first 2.5 hours really wasn't worth running at top speed at all. We used these laps for a little bit of photography and just to test the safety equipment, but we really couldn't go flat out. So finally, with about an hour to go, we sent the drivers out and we were able to run hot laps. And as the track dried, the sun came out, which helped us. As the track dried and the conditions got better, the lap times started falling and they got faster and faster. And very quickly, just two full hot laps in, we were able to go faster than our 2008 time. And again, we saw the same thing that we saw in 2008 where the lap times kept falling and falling. We never felt like we really achieved that fastest lap by the end of our first day. And we worked with the track officials and they were able to get us a small session a few days later. And the sun was shining all the days and we had nice dry air, dry weather until then. So the track was completely dried and that's when we went out. The track was able to give us just 2 laps and we were able to achieve the 7-minute, 12-second lap time. It's great to have achieved a good lap time and once again establish a benchmark. Viper Nation loves this, by the way, and again, the reason why we came the second time was because of this demand from our customer base, and to give that to them was a joy. And they're all changing the stickers on the cars with the new lap time numbers because they're all so proud of the achievements that the team's been able to do. You know, I think it was Jackie Stewart who coined the term the green hell in describing the Nürburgring. Just because the track is so ominous, it's so challenging, it's such a monster, it's actually a fitting nickname. But for us, for the Viper team, for SRT, it's really been the green heaven. It's a good track for the Viper and we've had a good experience there so far and we can't wait to go back. And we definitely look forward to being able to show the new car in 2012, next year, the new 2013 Viper to the world. I think everyone's going to love it a lot.